Hey, what's up everybody? It's your mortgage expert, Brian McCauley here. So are you a seller, aka a homeowner in this market, and you want to sell your house, buy a new one, but you're falling in love with your current interest rate and you're scared to sell and buy because you're worried about these higher interest rates? Stick around. In this video, I'm going to tell you why waiting to sell your house is a bad idea and how you can get an interest rate similar to the one that you've got now in today's market. Let's do it. Listen, as the DFW housing market continues to heat up and thaw itself out, we've got a lot of buyers on the sidelines right now that are starting to get back in the game. They realize inventory is thin, but what we're hearing more now than ever is existing homeowners, aka sellers. They want to get off the sideline. They want to put their house on the market, but they're just so in love with the current mortgage rate and the current mortgage payment that they're hesitant to sell because they can't get that same rate and that same payment or a similar rate and a similar payment on a new mortgage. So I want to talk to all the sellers out there and explain to you why now is a good time to sell and how you can get an interest rate close to the one that you have in today's market. So the first thing that I want to talk about with sellers is house money. What I call that, AKA, is extra equity based on what happened in COVID. So here's an example of what I want everybody to comprehend when you're a current homeowner right now on how you're playing with house money, how you can use some of that house money to benefit you and get a lower rate, and why now is actually a better time to sell than in the future. So sellers, I want you guys to take into consideration an idea about house money. Let's say that you're a seller out there, and a current homeowner, and you've got a property that you bought, let's just say early 2020. You got an interest rate of 3.99. So what happens is everyone says, wow, man, I've got an interest rate of 3.99. My payment's really cheap. Brian, I'd like to sell. I've made a lot of money based on this market and the COVID run, but I'm just scared because, I can't get that mortgage. I can't get that rate. I can't get that payment the same. So I'm going to just hang on to my house and sell it later because I want interest rates to drop. So sellers, I want you to remember a couple things. Whatever equity that you currently have in your house right now, that's house money. It's what I call the trampoline effect, meaning the equity in your house bounced way up and you have more equity than you would in a natural market because of COVID. So there's a pro and a con on that, right? The pro is you bounced up, you've got more equity than natural market. Let me give you an example of a natural market. If you bought a $500,000 house in a non-COVID market, in Texas, the average appreciation is 4% a year. So if you have a $500,000 house, you bought it in 2020, we're right now in 2023. If it appreciates at 4% a year, that's $20,000 a year that it would have increased year over year. So 2020, 2021, 2022, and now we're in 2023. So you've had 3 full years of equity and appreciation. At 4% a year, your $500,000 house should be worth about $560,000. A lot of people right now are saying, hey, my house is worth more than $560,000. It's probably worth $600,000. So I've got a little extra equity, AKA house money, because of what happened in COVID and pushing the demand and the prices up, but I don't want to sell my house because I have a great rate. So think to yourself, okay, if I've got, let's say, $40,000 extra in equity, meaning I have a $500,000 house, in a normal market it'd be worth $560,000. In this COVID bouncy crazy market, obviously it may be worth $600,000 now. So you've got $40,000 extra that you have benefited from by all the increase in demand, all the increase in appreciation, and I call that house money. So I want sellers and owners to understand something. That extra $40,000 is not wasteful money, but it's extra money that you wouldn't have if the market wouldn't have done what it would have done with COVID in 2020 to 2022 and 2023. So think about something. If you want to sell, capitalize, and make money off the proceeds, but you're stuck because you don't want to pay a higher rate than what you currently have. So I want to talk about interest rate buydowns. I talk about this a lot with buyers, but sellers, I want you to know something. This is available for you as well. So I want you to think, hey, if I've got $100,000 in equity, normally I would have about $60,000, 4% a year based on natural appreciation in a regular environment. So I've got $40,000 extra that I wouldn't have. When you go to sell your house, I want you to understand something. You can do one of two things with that extra equity, okay? So the first thing is, if you're a seller, you put your house on the market, you list it, a lot of buyers come because there's no inventory. You go out, you find a house that you want, and you're like, I really like this house. It's a good house, but Brian, the interest rate is 6.99. I don't like that because I currently have 3.99. So you as a seller have two options to get a cheaper rate. The first option is, hey, there are interest rate buy down options out there that buyers are taking advantage of all day, every day. A 3, a 2, and a 1 as far as the interest rate. You can buy it down 3%, 2%, or 1%. So as a seller, when you become a buyer, that option is available to you as well. So if you find a new house that is not moving quickly and that seller is willing to negotiate, play ball, and give you a concession, what you can do as the new buyer is say, hey, I'll give you $700,000 for your house, but what I want from you is I want $30,000 in closing cost concessions. And what you can do as the seller is use a little bit of that $30,000 to pay for your closing costs. And then here's the big win. If you've got $20,000 left over, you can use that $20,000 to buy the interest rate down from 699 to 399. It's a 3-2-1 buy down, and so it's 3% lower for year 1, 2% lower for year 2, 1% lower on year 3. So you get your cake and you eat it too as a seller. Now, if you don't keep the interest rate on the temporary buy down for the full term, in this scenario it'd be 36 months, on the prorated portion of the unused money for the buy down, you get a full refund as the seller. So let me explain. If it cost you $20,000 to buy your interest rate down from 699 to 399 and it's stuck on 399 for year 1, and then it goes to 499 on year 2, and then it goes to 599 on year 3, and then if you did nothing, it would mature back to the 699 on year 4. But let's say you get 16 months into the transaction, so you've converted from 399 on year 1 to 499 on year 2, but you've got a lot of time left on that buy down, but interest rates drop and you want to refinance into a permanent 4.25 for the rest of the life of the loan. What happens is, out of that $20,000, if you only use $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 because you're only halfway through the buy down period, that money gets fully refunded back to you as the seller. That is correct. It doesn't go back to the principal to pay it down. It is a true refund check. So what happens is you get a big check in the mail, you can put it in your pocket, you can pay off debt, or you can do what a lot of clients do, which is take that surplus of whatever the prorated portion is and use it to literally cover the closing cost on the new refinance when you go to refinance and get the rate down permanently forever, and there's literally no true expense to you. So what I see too many times is I see sellers saying, man, including myself, I've got a super competitive interest rate. I've got some extra equity, AKA some house money that I wouldn't have in the equity in my house if it wasn't for the COVID boom, but I just love my rate. I just love my payment. Yes, I could sell my house and make a big old pile of money, but I just am not comfortable with the new mortgage rate. I'm not comfortable with the new mortgage payment. So I want you to remember, you're currently playing with house money. What you decide to do with that house money is up to you. The second factor I want to bring into the equation is, let's say you're a seller out there, you sell your house, you make $100K where normally you would have made $60K, so you've got $30,000 or $40,000 extra. And let's just say for whatever reason, you can't get the seller on the other side to give you a concession. Brian, I love this house, it's $700,000, it's great, but there's another offer out there. I can't get this owner to give me the concession, so now I'm going to be stuck with that 699 rate again. Here's the tip that I want you to take away with. Out of the extra money that you made on the sale, the extra $30,000 or $40,000, as opposed to the seller giving you a concession, just take a small portion of your proceeds, let's call it $20K, $25K, and buy the interest rate down at your expense. So you get a $700,000 house. We hope that the seller will give you a $20,000 concession so they can pay for the buy down. But worst case scenario, if that happens and you sell your house and you make extra money, you can take $20,000, $25,000 out of those proceeds and you can buy your own interest rate down from 699 to 499 or 4.5, whatever you decide. So those lower rates are always available to buyers no matter what. It's just that buyers or sellers or realtors or renters, they're just not aware of all this. Why? Number one, we have had such a competitive interest rate market over the last 5+ years that no one's had to talk about buying down interest rates and getting cheaper interest rates or payments because the market has given it to us naturally. But since the beginning of time, lower interest rates, aka discounted interest rates, aka discount points, which is what you guys see a lot of times on these loan estimates from lenders, are always available to you as the buyer. The thing behind it is, number one, do you know that it's available to you? If you don't know how to capitalize. Number two, if you're gonna pay to get a cheaper interest rate, what is the right amount to pay? How much should I pay? How far should I buy it down? Should I pay it as the buyer? Should I ask for the seller? Should we split it? All of these things matter, so you can come up with a good strategy to make sure that you, as the buyer or the seller that's fixing to turn in a new buyer, know all your options. So I want you to understand that these options are out there. You can still sell your house for max proceeds. Go find a house out there, become a buyer, and if you can get the house that you want at a price that you want and get the seller to give you a concession, and then you can have that seller pay to buy your interest rate down from 699 to 499 to 399, you win. If for some reason it's a competitive market, multiple offer, or maybe the seller just says, no, I'm not gonna give you any concession, you as the buyer are still gonna sell your current house and make extra money, take a little slice of that extra money and say, cool, I'll take that house, and what I'll do is I'll buy the interest rate down myself from 699 to 499. And so that way you still have the best of both worlds. Now, last piece I want to talk about on this, a lot of people will say, well, you know, instead of doing that, Brian, what I want to do is I just want to stay in my house as an owner, stay in my house as a seller. And, you know, in 12 to 18 months, you know, running up to the election, we know interest rates are going to get better. Inflation is going to come down. Interest rates follow inflation. As inflation comes down, interest rates will come down as well. So instead of like spending my money to buy the rate down or trying to get the seller to give me some money to buy the rate down, I'm just going to hang tight until the summer of 2024 when interest rates hopefully are naturally, you know, mid fives, maybe low fives. And then what I'll do is I'll buy that house then, and then I feel better about my interest rate, and I feel better about, you know, my payment, and I don't have to spend any money, and I don't have to keep my fingers crossed and hope the seller is going to help me pay for it, and then I'm kind of good. So I say that's a good thought, but ... here is the catch. So what's going to happen whenever interest rates naturally drop and get back down into the fives? Hopefully the projection is by 2025 in the high fours, but somewhere next summer up to the election and after is really going to be probably the most competitive window that I think, where rates will hit high fours naturally, low fives naturally. It's going to push all of the buyers off the sideline at once. And what's going to happen is everyone's going to see lower rates, lower payments, more affordability. So you're going to have 3 or 4 times as many buyers come off the sideline, try to get houses because they can afford the payments now. What that does is it pushes the price of homes up, it pushes the demand up, and all of a sudden that $700,000 house that you could buy right now is now $750,000. So as a seller thinking, hey, I'll just wait, I'll become a buyer next year when rates drop down naturally on their own and buy that $700,000 house. The problem with that is what you're gonna pay for that house a year from now is not gonna be what you're gonna pay today. I think that $700,000 house will be at least 5% more, maybe 10% more. So if it's $700,000 now, it'll probably be $750,000. It could be as high as $775,000, depending upon how many buyers and how are going after that specific property and how competitive the market is. So you gotta think to yourself, ooh, what I will save in the interest rate drop from 699 to maybe 5.5 or 5.25 at that time, you're gonna pay an extra 50 to 70 grand on that new home, and therefore what you pay more for on that home versus what the savings is in the rate, they're gonna balance each other out. It's gonna be a wash or be a net wash or close to it, but at the same time, you're gonna have to compete with other people. As a seller turning into a buyer, the last thing to think about is buying that house at $700,000 right now. Think about in 12 to 18 months, the example that I just gave. If interest rates drop and now all these people come off the sideline, your $700,000 house today is going to be worth $750,000, $760,000 in a year. So outside of paying more for the house, wouldn't you want to get that spike equity and make 5 to 10% on your home versus wait till rates drop to the mid fives, low fives in a year to 18 months and feel better about the payment, but then you're paying more for the house, which basically offsets the savings in the rate and the payment, and you didn't catch that equity on the upswing. So these are things that I want sellers to understand, which is if you're in love with your current rate and payment, I get it. But instead of waiting till the market naturally drops in 12 to 24 months and then going out to the street and going out to the market and trying to compete again for another house that's gone up in price and overpaying for it or maybe not even getting it, what you should consider is listing your house right now, selling it, make max proceeds, go become a buyer while the price is right and the market is still cool enough to negotiate a deal. And if you can get the new seller to give you a concession to buy the interest rate down from 699 to 499, you get back to a competitive interest rate and a competitive payment that you like. If for some reason you can't get the new seller to pay for it, as the seller that's going to sell their house and turn into a buyer, you can still take a small slice, 10-15% of your proceeds, get that house that you wanted, a price that you want, and just use that money to buy the interest rate down, and therefore you've got the rate that you like, and the payment that you like, and the house that you like. So you've got the perfect trio in a market that's forgiving and will give you all three of those lining up perfectly right now, which it won't in the future. So listen, I hope you found this information useful. If you did, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe, even share this video with somebody that you know that is potentially a seller looking to become a buyer that could find this information valuable and change the direction of their housing decision. And if you just want to connect with me to figure out what you can get pre-approved for, talk about your home buying journey, run some numbers, or just have a casual conversation, do me a favor. Call us, email us, text us. We are always here for you. Until next time, stay tuned.